The hard truth that nobody's going to tell you about in order for you to become successful is that you have to be still. You have to be in the present moment. Why? Because the present moment determines what you do in the future, and your future is determined based off of what you did in the present moment. Okay? So with that being said, welcome or welcome back. It's your favorite mental health specialist, Ty Guidance, and that is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Now, with that being said, because there's no right or wrong way to heal yourself, always and only take what resonates as well as leave the rest. So if it doesn't apply, that means it's not aligned, which means it is not for you, so don't force it. As well as grab your pens, grab your paper, and be prepared to take notes. For today's video, we're going to go over and discuss why and how it's so important to be still and to be in the present moment, as well as some recommendations, some reminders, some disclaimers, and just certain things that you should be aware of. So starting off with the introduction, because I feel like I'm just yapping at this point, is realizing that in order for you to create your future, you, one, must have had a past, which means you're going to go through things in life, and number two, you have to learn from them, so therefore you could be in the current and present moment. Until you learn to make peace with your past, you will continue to not be able to move forward. And this is why you feel stuck and stagnant like a robot, okay? You are stuck in your past. You have to get out your past. You have to grieve your past. You have to mourn your past. You have to let go of your past. Why? Because you did there, done that, it's done and over with, and you can't go back. You see, in life, we can only move forward. Okay? Nothing can stop us. We're all the way up. Keep moving forward. We don't have time to waste. You've been wasting so much time. Now, if you're new here, we motivate, inform, and educate. We come up with solutions. I recommend you watch all the other 1,100 or 200 plus videos that I've recorded about our past, grieving, and moving forward, and why you need to let go. Because it's like, until you're able to accept who you used to be and what you need to learn, you will not be able to see the future. And this is why a lot of people have a distorted image of reality and are not able to make progress or feel like what they're doing is not showing up, when that's not the truth. So the second disclaimer is knowing that when you grieve your past, you're gonna have to change the way you think. You're gonna have to change the way you show up. You're gonna have to change the way how you just live life, because you can't do what you used to do. It's not common sense. Everyone doesn't even understand what that means, and it's not cliche. You have to realize that if you grew up in a low vibrational state, you grew up abused, you grew up with narcissists, you grew up in dysfunction, you grew up in toxic environments, you grew up in poverty, you grew up struggling or suffering, or maybe you felt lonely, whatever insecurity, doubt, envy that you've had, if you no longer want to resonate with that energy, you have to be able to go within. You have to be able to self-reflect. You have to be able to evaluate what you did, what you said, what you need to learn about yourself and others in order for you to make the necessary changes. So the third disclaimer is knowing that the change is not always going to show up physically. The change is not always going to show up materialistically. The change is not always going to show up immediately. The change is going to start with you wanting to not do certain things. But until you decide that this is what you want to do and this is what you don't want to do, how would you be able to move forward? You have to stop trying to figure out everything when you don't even know who you are. And that's the fourth disclaimer. You need to figure out who you are. You have to go through a self-discovery journey in order for you to be intentional, especially if you weren't taught and shown. So a lot of times when we struggled and suffered in our past, it is sometimes at the expense of other people. It's not always you. You know when you suffered because of you, and you know you suffered because that's what you were taught, that's what you were shown, because that's what your parents said. If you guys hold my stomach, oh my gosh, I'm trying to go through this video so I could eat, because yeah, I'm hungry and I have things to do. But we have to learn, which is going to be the fourth disclaimer, we have to learn how to forgive ourselves. We have to learn how to forgive ourselves, because it's like holding on to memories and people, places, and things where we were hurt and abused and abandoned. It's not helping us. Now, this doesn't mean that the feelings that you had weren't valid, or the things that you went through was fair, or that you deserved to suffer and struggle, because nobody on this earth, despite what people are, how they end up being, it starts when we're little. It starts when we're children. Until you heal your inner child and make peace with her or him or they, you're just going to continue to be angry and hold on to grudges and be upset. Once again, this doesn't validate what the abusers have done to you, your parents, family, friends, teachers, school, etc. But it happened. And at the end of the day, all you have is yourself if you don't have anybody else. And it's like, you're going to have to learn how to be accountable for yourself. You're going to have to learn how to be the biggest supporter. You're going to have to be the one who's your mom and your dad if you didn't have that. You're going to have to be the person that you've been wanting for and looking for, because it's always been about you. Like, stop listening to people and places and things who make you feel small, or who don't allow you to be your true, authentic version of yourself. So finally, before we get into the recommendations, in order for you to be present, you have to understand that as you go through life, you're going to have ups and downs. It's not permanent. It only seems longer than what it needs to be, and you only struggle with suffering when you're not able to let go. So number one, you have to learn to let go. Learning to let go can allow you to be the person you want to be, but most importantly, help you stay present. So in order for you to learn to let go, on your notes in the comment section, I want you to list everything that happened to you that was so traumatic that you thought you weren't going to be able to overcome. And I want you to identify, number one, how it made you feel. What did you have to learn? What did you have to, evaluate? What did you need to fall back from? And most importantly, how are you going to handle situations if you have to experience that again? Or how would you have handled that situation? Like, you need to learn how to have a relationship with yourself. So if you don't have a relationship with yourself and you're here and your notifications on, you need to be in the comment section, okay? You need to be on your notes, answering the questions, okay? You need to be booking your service in your session. It's in the description. And follow me on all my other social media platforms. If not me, you need to go to your therapist. You need to see a psychiatrist, If not, you need to go to God, the ancestors in the universe. And I'm not here to force religion or convince you to believe in spirituality, because at the end of the day, we don't have to do that. You have free will. If this video has come across your browser feed and you choose to watch the video all the way to the end and you're returning, you have some work to do. Now, if you don't return, that's your business. Send and share this video to somebody else. But at this point, even with myself, the standard that I have for you, I have the same standard with myself. At some point, we're going to have to sit with ourselves and talk about how we feel. Like, it's not cringy to be vulnerable. It's not cringy to be emotional. Now, if you grew up in an environment that made you feel that way, once again, you're going to have to learn how to grieve that. Why did that make me feel that way? Why did these people not allow me to express myself? Did I feel safe? Did I feel seen? These are all questions that you're going to have to start asking yourself. So the second recommendation, in order for you to be still, is just learning how to not feel like you have to do a training task in a day. And this is something that's going to whoop a lot of y'all, okay? Now, I'm an old school mental health specialist, meaning very traditional. If you are constantly on the go and you believe in working hard and work, you have an old mentality. And an old mentality as in like slavery. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. Clip this video if you want to. We as people are not meant to work all day, every day, and just die. We do not have to do that. This doesn't mean that you don't have to work in life, but working until you pass out is not healthy. That is a form of slavery. That is a form of abuse. When you work, you can enjoy yourself and you can want and have desires in life, but working until your body breaks down or your mind breaks down is not okay. So you need to learn how to slow down. You need to start having boundaries. You don't have to do a training task in a day unless you're like a man, because that is who did the working. All to y'all shade. But I'm not here to make gender roles and neutrals, but it's like, unless you're a man and you feel like, oh, I have to do, you're a provider, which I'm not a man, so I'm not, like I said, I'm not even getting into that. But it's like, man or woman or they, we still, and even with men, you still need to have boundaries. It is okay for you to rest. You're not lazy because you're taking the time to grieve. Like, grieve, please Google that word. I would do it for you guys, but I need to continue with this video. Grieving is not a one size fit all. Grieving, especially your past and trauma that you've been exposed to for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, takes months, years, decades, or your entire life, depending on how many sessions, how many videos, how many times you're commenting, how many times you're engaging, how many times you're seeing a therapist, or you're building a relationship with God. And to be honest, if you know, it's your whole life, because you're constantly going to go through cycles and phases. But it's like, we don't need to be on autopilot. And you don't realize that when you grow up in dysfunction and you're struggling or you're suffering or you're anxious or you're depressed and you're always on go, once again, like I said, you're going to have a moment where you crash. And I don't believe in crashing out no more. Like, if you don't know that you don't need to crash out, like, there's multiple ways to do things. And the same thing when it comes to healing. Like, we don't always need to be on a go. Same thing with the trauma and the emotions. You don't need to continue to struggle, suffer. No. Have days where you take time to have self-care days. Have days where you just sleep all day. Have days where you're not overwhelmed and overstimulated. Have days where you're able to relax and regulate your nervous system, whether that's walking, working out, listening to music, dancing, doing something you enjoy, spending time with people that you love. Like, if you're constantly on the go, you're not going to be able to think. And if you can't think, you're not going to be able to figure out what you need to do moving forward. Like, in order to be still, you have to accept where you are. And that's the third or fourth recommendation I lost count. Learn to be patient with yourself. And that's similar to the last recommendation. But if you struggle with patience, you're going to struggle in life. You're constantly going to be overwhelmed. Anytime you're inconvenienced, you're constantly going to feel frustrated. You're constantly going to feel like, oh, this is not working out for me. Fix your attitude, because that's what it is. And like I said, as an old mental health specialist in spirit, I'm not here to play these games. I'm not an enabler. So if you want to be enabled, send this video to somebody else. But for those of you who know what's up and you're choosing to be here, we're not making excuses. Yes, we struggled. Yes, we suffered. Yes, we have a past. Yes, it's a lot of energy. Yes, you're going to feel frustrated. Yes, you're going to be mad. Yes, you're going to feel sad. But guess what? Whoop-de-doo. You're going to have to move forward. You still have to show up. And when I mean by old, I'm talking about Harriet Tubman old school. Harriet Tubman did not wait for nobody. You have to have that same strength. You have to have that same energy. That's why my content is not for everybody on all my social media platforms, because you have to move a certain type of way. You do have to be cut from a different cloth. It's not about being braggadocious. It's not even about thinking, oh, well, who do you think you are? You don't think highly of yourself. You need to start thinking highly of yourself. If you start thinking highly of yourself, you will realize you went through the obstacles. You learned the lessons, and now it's time for you to be still. So therefore, moving forward, you are not doing what you used to do. You will not get to the other side and be the person you want to be if you can't be sat still. Because if you don't sit down, God will sit you down. Your ancestors will sit you down. The universe will turn you every way, which way loose. And a lot of you all, you see how I'm getting my finger out? You can't take no whooping. Some of y'all never been, and I'm not talking about like physically, I'm not talking about an abusive or domestic violent way, but it's like, if you know you can't tussle and you know you can't get in the field, if you know you're not a heavy hitter, you need to sit down and sit still. If you know you're not a real G, like lasagna and a gangster, you need to learn how to sit still. It's not because you need to be humbled, but life will humble you. If you claim to be spiritual, if you claim to be religious, if you say you're this and that, then you know you're not going to be able to do everything all day, every day. And the people who do, they're on the crash outs. The moment that they lose that dopamine, the moment that they stop doing everything, they don't know what to do. Like, relax, calm down. And once again, when you're used to dysfunction and toxic people and narcissists, it seems like, oh, this is boring. So many people confuse peace with boring, not realizing you're safe. Some of you all grew up in so much dysfunction and toxicity that when you're not working, or when you're being still, or when you're being patient, you think there's something wrong. And it's like, no, babe. That's how the pace of the world is. Things do not always happen immediately. Because when it's gone, it's gone. When it's done, that's it. So the fourth recommendation in order for you to be still is learning to appreciate your solitude. A lot of you all can't sit with yourself because you don't like who you are. Like, a lot of people sometimes are always feeling the need to be busy because they know if they were to sit still with themselves, you can't hang. You got to learn how to hang with yourself. If you don't like yourself, you're not going to like anything in life. And I'm speaking from experience. The more I've been having to be still, the more I'm having to learn to be patient, the more I'm realizing, like, okay, one, I don't need to be doing a trained task in a day because, like I said, I'm personally not a man. I'm not a man provider. I'm not a slave. If you know, you know, you know. If you get it, you get it. You get what I get it, okay? But for us and those, to the woman and even the men who understand, you don't always have to be doing everything, because that's how you have physical problems. And once again, our mental health is connected to everything. Your mental health, your emotional health, your psychological health, your subconscious and your subconscious, your conscious, your soul, your being, it's all the same, okay? Yes, they break it down for you to logically comprehend, but once again, if you claim to be the chosen one or whatever you want to call yourself, then let's be for real. If you're constantly physically overwhelmed, then now you're going to have physical problems like cardiac arrest, stroke, heart attack, passing out, unconsciousness. If your mind is overwhelmed because you're always thinking, you're going to get anxiety. You become anxious. You become paranoid. Now you have PTSD. Do we see the issues? Relax. The world is not going to go anywhere. You need to be able to sit with yourself. You need to figure out what's working, what's not, and take your time. Stop trying to rush. You wouldn't feel uncomfortable being still if you learn how to be patient and you realize that, especially if you're doing the work by yourself. Like a lot of you watching my videos, depending on where you are in your journey, you are your biggest support system. And it's not until you continue to show up for yourself that, of course, eventually when the time is necessary, that you'll reap the external rewards, and certain people and certain materials and certain opportunities will come to you. But it's like a lot of times we have to put in the work by ourselves in order for us to have the things that we want. And if you're really, like I said, somebody who believes in abundance, there's no right or wrong way to do that, and there's no specific time to do so. Learn to be still. You have to, and that's what nobody's going to tell you. And I'm going to end off this video because I have to go. But like, you have to learn how to be in the present moment, because that's how you determine what you want your future to be like. Your future is not set in stone, and it doesn't have to be based off of your past. But it's like, until you learn how to grieve your past, which is the biggest lesson that we talked about in today's video, and you learn to be patient and you realize what's going on, and you just accept the fact that yes, it is a lot, it is okay, but it's still possible, because you're watching Ty Guidance. She talks to you, she makes these videos. That's why it's so important to like these videos, comment, and engage, because you know that's the bare minimum. That's free. I'm not charging you guys for this information. And even when you book your service in your session, the prices are where it's mutual. So if you say you really don't have no friends, you don't have no family, oh my god, I'm so alone, whiny, turn on your post notifications and subscribe, okay? Now, if you don't like the videos, like I said, this is too vulnerable, this is too authentic, this is too direct, send and share this video, because it's like, that's how life is. I'm not gonna hold your hand forever, because I'm not even gonna be here physically forever. You're not even gonna be here physically forever. So if I don't waste my time, why should you? Learn the lessons. It's going to be okay. And of course, when you're in the moment, a lot of times you don't see the end because you're meant to be still. And that's another thing. If you guys want a part 2 about that, let me know. Make sure you guys are following me on all my social media platforms. All the information is down in the description box below. Book your service in your session. Once again, support is support, and support is free. If you don't want to book a service in a session, support is free. Liking, comment, engaging. Let me know what resonated, what you need to work on, what we need to talk about. Free. Okay? I love you. You are loved. You're not alone. Thanks for watching. Peace.